we talked a little bit about policy, but the one thing I want to also remind you guys about policies is the purpose of it. Policy work is probably one of the most dull things that trustees end up having to do, because a lot of times you're reading line after line of obligations that you're setting for yourself. But they serve a dual purpose in Montana. The first is so that you're telling everyone what the rules are. You're giving people notice of what your expectations are for the policy, so that you can hold them to that standard. And as long as you've adopted them appropriately and you consistently enforce them, they are laws for your district, and they are enforceable as such. On the flip side, you're bound by them. Once you say this is our rule, you have to adopt that rule. So tonight was a good example of that rule. So there's discussion about what's the lowest responsible bidder. In Montana, public entities such as yourself are required to accept the lowest responsible bidder. And that means it responds to your bid. So like Mr. Reynolds, what you were saying was, it seems pretty petty to kick them out for something like that. I don't disagree that it's a harsh remedy. But we have these very specific rules that are going to say, if they're not responsive, which means they didn't comply exactly with what you asked in the RFP, you can't accept their bid. And that's difficult in Montana. That has caused a great deal of grief. That's what our state in Title 18 tells us we have to follow. So you have a policy that says you have to do that. And even if you didn't, it's the law. But that's one of those examples where you set a policy for yourself and you said, we will do this and we will be responsible for this. You can't change your mind midstream for someone that comes along that you want to benefit, even when the results sometimes seem harsh. And where this comes up 90% of the time is students. Is you see a situation where you have a rule, say you were a zero tolerance towards alcohol, and that's the standard. If you get caught, you're out of school for say 5 weeks, whatever, just make it up. Then a kid comes forward and there's mitigating circumstances and we all feel horrible about it. If you don't enforce that 5 weeks for that student, you're going to have a real difficult time enforcing the 5 weeks as it goes down the road. And sometimes that's really difficult for trustees because it seems like you're being very inflexible. But the same due process protections that we talk about for adults also exist for students. And on top of it, there's this concept of equal protection. If someone gets the benefits of your generosity in one circumstance, you've got to show why I'm not able to have the benefit of that generosity in my circumstance. And that's hard to deal with, particularly with students. But that's why your policies are really important. I would strongly encourage you to be familiar with it at least. So if there's something, if there are certain things that are philosophical in nature for trustees, and you guys as a board may decide you want to change them. And the board that adopted those policies 10 years ago or whatever it was, you may not be philosophically in the same place as that board does. So you might want to look at those. So it's kind of a nice way to keep your board in a really proactive kind of stance, is to be looking at, we know what our role is as far as setting policy, acting as the public employer, and giving our administrators direction about where we want the district to go. So instead of always reacting to things that are brought to you, you could say for each different agenda, we want to start looking at particular policies that we know are where we have some discretion, where federal law hasn't said you have to do this and that's the end of it. And start having those discussions and having those kind of conversations at board level, so you stay more proactive with boards as opposed to always react. That's hard to do because there are things that pop up every month that you're going to have to deal with. So no board is ever going to be completely proactive and not reactive at all. But it's kind of
you see the zip drive of the current work that has been ongoing for the past year. The Board Policy Committee has been meeting with the Montana School Boards Association to go over our policies and look at how the laws have changed and how the policies need to be revised and updated to be more modernized so that they are in compliance with the Montana code that exists. The policy committee has met several times and has reviewed all of the policies. And at this time, what's before you is, on the zip drive, is a policy manual that is this size, this volume. We know that this is a first reading on the revisions to the policy manual. And so what the board members are asked to do is to go ahead and pull your policies up on that zip drive and take a look through it and review it. And if you have questions, please, contact my office, and we'll be more than happy to discuss any of the ideas or thoughts that have gone into why the revisions are in front of you. Please be aware that it's first reading that kicks it on down to the next month. That could be a second reading, and you kick it down the road another month to a third reading, fourth reading, and so on. until you feel comfortable that you've had ample opportunity to review the changes so that it can be enacted and adopted. And so MTSBA had recommended that we present it to the board this way, given that it is a manual revision of all of the policies in section 1,000 through 8,000. So if you have a zip drive, if you are having problems with your zip drive, please let us know so that we can take a look at it and see whether or not that we need to present it in a different format. If you'd like to have a hard copy of the manual, I'd be more than happy to print one off and to get it to you that way so that you have the hard copy in front of you. For anybody in the audience that would like to receive a copy of this, you can put a records request into the office, and we'd be more than happy to provide a copy for you. There is a charge for that. Or if you'd like to come in and sit down in the conference room and do it on your own, you may also do so in that manner. So I encourage you to please look through.
I'm just going to make a motion to accept policy changes on first reading.
As first reading.
As first reading.
Okay, so discussion. And I guess I'll start by saying thank you to Vicki for sitting through hours of committee on that with Montana Speedway Association. It's kind of interesting though. I sat in on part of it and lots of interesting details there.
And I might say that after being on the board as long as I have, and I thought I had read through most of the policies, it was, even though it was a lot of time, it was beneficial to have Mr. Brock sit down and, I mean, sometimes you wonder, why is that a policy? I mean, it's, lots of times it is boilerplate coming from the Montana Speedway Association, but he has a great knowledge of exactly why it is and why it needs to be in our policy, and it was very, very educational. So I appreciate the opportunity to be on the committee.
So any other discussion?
And just another note, when you do go through your zip drive, if you get to the table of contents at the beginning of each section, you will see that some of the policies haven't changed because the laws haven't changed in effect to those policies, but others have. And so what you will find next to them is bolded R. It says this has been revised, so you can go directly to that policy and see, okay, what is the revision that occurred, and you can compare it to the old policy manual that you have.
So there is a, I didn't see that bolded R. They didn't have a problem with zip drive. That's good. So is every policy on that zip drive a revised policy, or are you saying only one?
No,
R on it?
you have all of the policies, but like in the section 1000s, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 revised policies. Out of all of those, it looks like there's 20 policies there.
In the 1000 section,
Yeah.
and then you go on. So I need to review that again, because I didn't see those, because I struggled through to find what was revised and what wasn't. That was a lot of information. And one time, I was, zip drive's a great idea, but,
Doesn't it say on the top of the first page there's a R at the top of that?
yeah, like I
page?
said, I might have got it, like I said, I got it Saturday. I think I looked at it today for a little bit. So like I said, it's a lot in there.
It's a ton of
in
stuff.
there.
Yeah, there's a ton of
So,
stuff.
I mean, to move it, accept it as a first reading would be kind of a mistake. I haven't had time to read it, so.
Well, just so you understand, the motion was as a reading, and so as a reading, it doesn't mean that it's adopted. It means that it's been given to you as a reading, and allows you and the public to go ahead and to have time before the next board meeting to go through this, and then at the second meeting, you can either adopt it on second reading or adopt it as a second reading. And as a second reading means you're not adopting the policy. You're saying we would need more time to continue to go through this.
So basically, action should be, we received it, is basically what you're saying.
That's what that motion essentially is.
far as all these, on all the committee meetings, you said, do we post all these committee meetings on those?
Yes, we
If they are, so do we keep minutes on all those?
Yes, we do.
So that, for me, that would be beneficial to me to have those, to see since I didn't attend those committee meetings, so if I could request those, that would be helpful for me in understanding all the policy changes that you guys made. If you could forward that to me, I'd appreciate that. As far as that goes, I think that's all I have, got a lot of reading to do.
That's why we're not accepting it, we're not adopting it tonight. We're just opening it for reading tonight.
Very well, I'm glad you cleared that up.
So, any other discussion? Mr. O'Brien?
Would it be possible to download the zip drive onto the school's website for the public to read?